So today I just want to talk about top ways you should be considering AI in your company. Every government contractor, especially small businesses, we should be thinking about how AI fits into our world because it is here to stay. And I'm going to cover down on 3 ways of looking at this. The first is just on your day-to-day job, right? How do you sit there and use AI for some of your day-to-day tasks? So I'm going to briefly talk about that. I've done a whole nother training on it where I've showed you how I could use AI to do some of the things I'll talk about. But then I want to go into more the customer side of the house with you because that's where the money is, right? And AI can help you make money. And so I want you to understand how you can research your customers or federal agency AI goals and challenges and the concerns they have out there. There's a lot of discussion going on, and you want to be aware of it because being informed helps you make better decisions as an organization. And then the last thing I'm going to talk to you about is how you can sell AI to your customers. I put here upsell, right? And it doesn't matter what you do. You could be doing construction or professional services, IT services, et cetera, and you can upsell it. I was talking with a customer who's where AI is kind of being pushed into and managed out of this CIO shop, this chief information officer or the IT shop. And it's like, no, AI is a pencil. It is a tool in every single person's hand. And it's like email is in every single person's hand. It helps us do our job. And that's how I want you to see it, because when I talk about how you can sell AI to your customer, I'm talking about how you can see AI fitting in as like an enabler to whatever you sell. I was working for the I Corps commander on Fort Lewis. So this is the only 3-star general on Fort Lewis. And that's who I was working for. And his commanders at all the different commands on base in Fort Lewis, Washington, which they now call, I think, Joint Base McCord Lewis or something. But his commanders used to get in their cars and drive across the base to come to his office just for some basic information, to share some basic information, to collaborate, a little soundboarding, et cetera, and then they go back. But email, as you can imagine, it changed all that. It's going to be such a huge transformation for the way we do business. It will be as impactful. Obviously, it might even be more impactful than the email was to the way we do work. And I really want you to keep this in mind. It is not a fad. If you don't know who I am, my name is Neil McDonnell. I'm the president of the GovCon Chamber of Commerce, and I want to welcome you to my federal sales training where I provide tips for success in the federal market. I spent 20 years in the federal market as a small business owner, and since 2018, I've been teaching people like you, government contracting is not a secret, it's just a process. When we follow a process A to Z, we're going to have repeatable, predictable results. That's what I want for you. That's why I do this training. Okay, so let's talk about how you can use AI for the day-to-day tasks. And by the way, if there's anybody out there who thinks that their business is around how to master AI tasks, I'm happy to sit there and collaborate with you, maybe even bring you on someday to do more training. For today, I'm not going to go in and show you inside of ChatGPT. I want to talk to you a bit about it so I can save time for the other things. But I've done a previous training you can look at in the newsletter. You can find a list of the previous trainings. But I've done other ones where I show actually how to do what I'm suggesting here. But one of my favorite things with the AI tools is literally to use it as a sounding board for me, right? So if I'm trying to plan anything, sometimes I'll plan training. I go, hey, I want to talk about how to use AI, right? I did not use AI today, but say I did, and I want to use AI to help me. I go, hey, I've come up with these 5 ideas of how to use AI in your day-to-day tasks. Give me 5 more ideas, right? And so if I went into Google, I'm just seeing a blog of somebody's generic response that generically aligns to what I'm asking. But when I go into ChatGPT or other tools like this, it will give me back an answer as if it literally is another person, right? I sometimes joke that I call mine Joey or Tony or Tommy or whatever, right? And the idea is it will be able to have this dialogue with me. And so I love it. It's something for you to track on. Another thing I really like is that it refreshes your memory. You can use it to refresh your memory, even though you're a subject matter expert. So let's say you're responding to the government on something in particular, and you're talking about an approach. Well, you can sit there and sometimes take a whole paragraph of what you wrote, literally like I talked about where I had a list, and say, what am I forgetting? Help me understand what's in here. Ask me questions that I can answer. I don't need you, the AI, to write everything and give it to me. Just give me a little teaser, remind me. One last way that I love using it is for Excel. So I use Excel all the time to manipulate data, to understand what's going on out there. And so I'll have all this data in the fields and I'm trying to do something and I can't remember the formulas. I'm not one of those people that have all the formulas in their head. And when I try to go to Google, again, it's generic. But I have gotten good by going into these AI tools and saying, look, I got data in cell, like I got a person's name, first and last, inside of cell A1. And all of column A, I've got people's names. I want that to be in a first name column and a last name. How do I do that? And if the data is in column A, and it will literally say, well, this is what you should do. And it gives me all this little extra explanation. But right in the middle, it says, here's the exact code. Copy it. And you can hit a button called copy, go over to your Excel spreadsheet, paste it, and it does what I need. It is also good when I get a formula like that and it doesn't work. And I go, hey, it didn't work. It says, well, first check for mistakes, Neil, because you might have messed it up. My advice was good. But then it'll give me more guidance, right? It'll sit there and say, well, look for this, look for that. And this is a really important way to use it from my mind. So this is just day to day. Some other things that I have here that you can see on the slide, right? You can use it to say, what questions should I ask a lawyer? If I'm going to talk to a lawyer about maybe a protest on an opportunity and I'm going in and I want to maximize the time because they charge me hourly or something, I can ask a lot of questions or I can get advice on what questions to ask. Same thing with maybe if I'm going in and deciding a teaming partner. Now, technically, you really don't need to ask AI because I got lots of training that's better than AI on what you should be looking for on a good teaming partner. But if you don't got my training, you can go in and talk to the AI tools that you use. And the idea is AI will give you things that you're not thinking about. It can write you whole blocks of text for sure, but it'll also be this dialogue that you can have. I did put out here my 2 cents on AI proposals. This is something for you to keep in mind. There are a lot of tools out there that are dropping out there. So they talk about writing proposals in far less time. Fine. But what I really want you to understand, because it's funny, even with something as simple as AI proposal tools, we have different sides. People look at it differently. But the thing I really want you to understand, so you don't set your expectations that won't be met, is an AI proposal tool will not write a good proposal getting it out the door. It will help you write a good proposal. You're the proposal writer, whether that's your job as a proposal manager or a business owner, it doesn't matter. You're writing the proposal. The AI tool is just helping you. When you look to the AI tool and say, I expect you to be an expert at it, that's like looking at an intern or somebody and saying, I expect you to be good at it. That's like looking at a proposal manager and saying, you write a great proposal. That's not how it works. The way it works is the solution engineer looks at it. We have pink team and red team reviews, or in a small business, basically draft 1, draft 2, draft 3s, right? We don't need color teams in a small company, but we all are looking at it. We are all writing it. Keep in mind the AI proposal tools, no matter how great they might be, they do not write proposals. They help you write proposals. And I gave you some other ideas you can use. Writing blogs or LinkedIn articles. It could really help you in day-to-day kind of getting some stuff out where you're the expert. You don't want it to just, come up with something and dump it. I see people do that and I just feel bad because it's not helpful. But the tool can help you write some marketing assets out there, especially if you're trying to do a little brand awareness and you're trying to showcase your expertise. It can give you top 10 lists that you can perfect, et cetera. So keep that in mind. Look at your day-to-day tasks and assume that AI can help you. And then turn to AI and say, I want you to be able to help me with my day-to-day tasks. Can I tell you what I do and you tell me how you can help? It literally will give you guidance back on that. Okay, so this one, ironically, it just occurred to me, I didn't update the slide, but that's okay because this slide I was trying to come over here. How you can research AI within your agencies. And I just have a few up here and I'm going to watch my time. But I want you to start looking into agencies and understanding, how do they see artificial intelligence? Where do they see this going? Don't get caught up in all the jargon, right? The AI is the biggest piece of jargon you can have. For the most part, though, you're really just trying to understand the efficiencies. And so I'm going to show you 6, maybe 7 things that are out here that I like. These are just examples of how I look into an agency so I can speak their language. I can go back and talk about their goals and their challenges. But this one here is coming out of basically the head of all AI for the government. And there's another office called the Chief Data something with DOD. But this one here, this report that I like, is a National AI Research and Development Strategic Plan. Those are the things I want you to find in your target agency. Let me come back here. So if I come down though, let me bypass this. This is all good information. But what I'm always looking for when I come in is to start looking at the table of contents to begin to understand where I might want to dig deeper. And I only have a short amount of time till 12:30, so I'm not going to go too far. But it's your idea. It's the idea that I want you to start looking in. These are when they say strategy, you can think about it as a strategic goal as well. They're trying to make long-term investments in fundamental and responsible AI research. This is huge, right? Down here, develop effective methods for human AI collaboration, understand and address ethical, legal, and societal implications of AI. This is really important. In a minute, when I go to another slide and I talk about how you can upsell AI as part of what you're doing, you need to understand the government's concern about doing AI the right way, right? There's this big discussion about ethical use of AI. For example, like I was saying, when you could use it on your day-to-day task to write something, you don't want plagiarism. So you want to make sure you're figuring out how to use it. Same thing here, ensure the safety and security of all AI systems and where it's at. This is where you start getting into number 5, develop shared public data sets and environments for AI training and testing. What I would be encouraging my customers to do is to go in and look at that and figure out how can you regurgitate some of that messaging back to the customers you work with. The federal government has a lot of activity going at the very highest levels around AI, but downstream, the bureaus, the commands, et cetera, they're all struggling to figure this out. This happens all the time where people think the message is getting across because it's at the top level, but it really is not. So here's another one that I liked. It's the Department of Defense's Data Analytics and Artificial Intelligence Adoption Strategy. Literally, I used to write adoption strategies. When I wrote a response to the government on an RFP, I would include adoption strategy. How are we going to adopt? What are we going to watch out for? And so if I look at this one, this is in a whole different way, right? And so what I'm looking for DOD, right? This is their highest document. And let me come back for 1 second. I think this was written last year. So just a few months ago, like 8-10 months ago. Very, very relevant documents, since most government documents live 2 to 4 years at least. But when I come in here, I can start looking into some of the outcomes they're looking at, some of their strategic goals. So if I look at key outcomes, I go, okay, that one looks interesting. Let me go see this. And let me zoom in for a second. I start looking at DOD and how they're talking. If they're writing it at this high level strategic document, you know, when they're in meetings, they're talking this way to each other, to lower level leaders saying, hey, as a result of implementing the strategy, we want you to be able to make rapid, well-informed decisions, right? By expertly leveraging high quality data, advanced analytics, and AI as part of a continuous outcome-driven, user-focused development, deployment, and feedback cycle. I love that kind of language because when you go back in, especially if you're able to pause those into bullets, it really begins to make sense. So, just as you come through, you start reading what they're talking about. Decision advantage is a competitive condition characterized this way, right? And so, well, here it's all about basically winning wars. But as you come through, you start seeing some of this activity. You start seeing their language. Just looking at the next, this one's Nuclear Regulatory Commission. So here you think about every area. How are they going to use AI in the Department of Energy or in NRC to be able to manage the nuclear activity that they do, right? So if I come down here, I'm going to run into the same thing. That's reference material. Here's an abstract. I'm looking for my table of contents, right? And in here again, I'm looking at these goals that are in here. And when I start figuring it out, I start figuring out what they're trying to do. One of the things I haven't seen yet, and I'm looking for, and maybe I can find it on page 3 here. Well, here you go. So Appendix B, right? Using artificial intelligence tools to enhance the activities. If we go down there, and let me discover it fresh with you as well, right? If I go all the way down there, my computer's almost out of memory. But I got lucky and got right to the right place. If I come down here, I'm looking at what they're trying to do, and it looks like we've got a good set of pages. See here, it's talking about alignment, backup warning. Okay, so there's not a lot in there, but you can read it. It's in paragraphs. If it was, I could show you easier. State Department, same thing, right? I can go into the State Department and look at the State Department and see what they're trying to do in here. So here, the department wants to ensure that AI and related technologies transform how we live, how we work, how we compete, how we defend ourselves, that we're staying ahead of change. Indeed, that we're shaping change and critically making sure it delivers for our people. When I talk to my customers about how they can go introduce AI, this is basically what I'm talking about. Go in and have a conversation with your customers at the bureau level, the office level, program office level, et cetera, and talk about how are you thinking about AI, especially how it relates to how we work, how you work in your office. When it says defend ourselves, it's a little broader statement for State Department, right? But you can also say, staying ahead of change. One of the challenges some organizations have is that they're just processing a lot of data. They're doing a lot of activity. How can AI help? How can AI help where it's reducing your costs, which I'll talk about more in a minute. Let me zoom back out here. And the same thing here. I can come down, State Department. If I start looking at several of these documents, I really begin to get an understanding of how are things being transmitted from the executive office of the president, so the top of our executive branch where all these agencies fall under. How do I see what their messaging is at the top level, and then where it goes into DoD or other major departments, and then how is it going downstream? You can go into different program offices or commands. I could go to 𝗪𝗔𝗕𝗏 and find a strategic plan written about artificial intelligence, and 𝗪𝗔𝗕𝗏 is under the Navy, which is under the Department of Defense, right? And so it's farther down. You can keep going into your target customers and learning more about it. Here, one of the reasons I like this, if I come down here, I'm looking at fostering a culture that embraces AI technology. There's a lot of people out there who kind of think AI is going to take my job. Even in the government personnel, they think that. Well, if you can go in and have conversations about the impact, increased AI fluency right here, enables all employees to safely and responsibly reduce time spent on tasks optimal for AI solutions, allowing them to focus their efforts on higher impacting activities. This is the type of language I want you to understand. This way of how is the State Department communicating this to their agency, and you can communicate that same thing back. And so in here, an example is provide AI training and support services. I'll talk about this in a minute, but that there is a great example of how you can upsell. No matter what you sell, let's say it's elevators, and you can talk about how AI can be used in there. Well, you could come in and talk about maybe an upsell project, mini project, about training facility chiefs or facility leaders inside of an organization on how AI can help at that level. Because again, everybody's thinking AI at the very highest levels. Just a couple of other quick ones, and then I'll switch over. So here's another one coming out of, I don't even know where this is coming out, NSA, the nuclear deterrence, but I think this is coming out of the Department of Energy with, is it National Nuclear Security Administration? That's under the Department of Energy. So again, they've got their own. Let me come down to theirs. So here you can begin to see how not only their goals, et cetera, and here's the motivation for using it. That's huge, right? And don't just look at your target agency. Look at other agencies like this one, and then take those lessons back. If these motivations are sufficient for the NNSA, then they probably are sufficient for your customer as well. Maybe you're always going to the Government Accountability Office, GAO, and looking for documents and reports that relate to what you do. But here's one talking about artificial intelligence last year and how DoD needs to figure out a department-wide approach to informing acquisition. So basically talking to the acquisition personnel and giving them guidance on how they can be integrating AI, let's call it task areas, et cetera, into the contracts they're doing, how they measure it, et cetera. But when you go through 44 pages here, you start really seeing what they're saying. You can turn these challenges that they're telling DoD to be aware of and to pay attention. You can turn those challenges now into basically sales pitches. Hey, we make sure this happens and this happens. When you're talking to your contracting officer, you can explain that. This last one, and I'll stop here and switch over to my last slide. There's an office that's called the in DoD, the Chief Digital and AI Office, right? So this is the top office for AI within DoD. And in here, one of the things I really like, and you go through this deck yourself, I've shared it out on LinkedIn. If you want me to send you guys a copy or put it out there, tell me in the chat, just CDAO, and I'll put it in there. Or links, please. If you want all these links, I'm happy to just share them. But my point is this scaffolding and AI assurance, as you come down, they're developing this scaffolding. And just think of scaffolding as this way to work around a building as you're working on a project for the adoption of AI across the DoD, the entire DoD. And here's where DoD is talking about this is their plan. I would be taking that plan and figuring out how do I turn that into my plan, right? And then I sell my plan by saying it is 100% aligned with DoD's scaffolding and AI assurance plan. Hopefully that makes sense there. Okay, last slide here I just want to talk about is how you can sell AI to your customers. And I alluded to it a little bit, but I wanted to give you an example. I was a project manager and do a lot of that kind of stuff. And on big construction projects, people used to have to go out to a construction site, walk around, look at it all, bring back reports and feed them in to talk about the progress of a project. Drones came along and they just took a drone up with a camera over a construction site, did pictures daily, and were able to use their computers to just give an automatic report. Instantly eliminated almost 80% of the effort to do snapshot reporting of a huge construction project. So drones had that impact. You know, what do drones have to do with construction? Well, the people who sold drones or the construction companies figured out how to integrate drones, that technology, into what they were doing. AI is that next advancement that I want you to be paying attention to. We all should be figuring out how to upsell AI into what we do. I used an example with elevators. Elevators have a shelf life of 5 or 10 years or whatever it is. And so they have a price to buy them, and then they have a cost to operate them, and then they're buying them again. And so AI can be used to sit there and maximize the lifetime of an elevator by maybe enhancing the maintenance schedule or doing something. Instead of doing it at 4 o'clock, we should do it at 5 a.m. or whatever, right? I don't know how to maintain elevators, but the point is looking at that. This ability to integrate AI into a company who sells elevator services. You might think, that's not me. If you're in the business side, professional services, IT, of course you can integrate it into your almost every single aspect of what you do. Federal buyers want to reduce waste, fraud, and abuse. One of the things I would recommend you do is to look at how you help the customer and your expertise and go, well, where are there areas of accidental waste or fraud and abuse, right? And I guess fraud and abuse are not accidental, but accidental waste, right? Where are there areas? Because then maybe you can introduce AI and you don't have to be the expert. Team up with another small business that does AI. I'm happy to make introductions and they'll come in and be the AI expert and you're the subject matter expert on the business needs. Again, the government wants to execute the mission faster and be more effective. They want to reduce costs. These things are all areas you can help, and you need to figure out how can AI add that value to what you sell. And so let me just move on to because I'm running out of time. I just want to give you the last 3 steps on coming out of today's training and what you should remember from today's training. First thing is identify the one thing you sell. Like, you know, that elevator company, they actually do some other construction, but elevators, one thing. Identify that, then begin to figure out how AI might be used to enable that, how you can upsell that. And you can go back to other companies, like for example, this elevator company can go back to Otis Elevators and go, hey, how's AI coming in? They're spending millions trying to figure that out. You can just borrow that from them. They want to work with you. So figure out though how AI can be used with your customers, and then go talk to your customers. Say, hey, this is what I'm thinking. What are you thinking? Are you guys open to having conversations about this? I have a customer right now that is meeting today or tomorrow with one of the agency customers because I taught her how to ask the customer about, hey, we're exploring ways AI can be used in everything we do with you. Are you open to the conversation? Now they're going to start talking about goals and challenges, et cetera. You do that with your customers. All right, I'm out of time. So just remember, government contracting, it is not a secret. It's just a process. I'll see you in the next training.